I'm not sure why I'm really recording this. Really have no intention to, ever show it. um, I know the Lord made me different. I found that out quickly as a child. Nobody ever got me, you know? Nobody ever understood me. And because of that, early on, in the way that the enemy came in, I didn't understand myself, you know? I just felt like that I was like trapped, almost like in this classroom or this space, and there was a memo passed out that nobody, that everybody got, but I didn't, you know? It was just, it was just one of those things, you know? People can't give what they don't have. And because of battles that those before me were already in the midst of, and cycles and traumas, the way everything was set up, it was just, I wasn't really seen, you know? I was kind of born with a job that I didn't know anything about, you know? And of course the job was to make my mom feel loved. And apparently I failed miserably at that. Which none of us can do these things in ourselves. And if somebody's empty there, if they've got a void there, if they're listening to the lies of the enemy, there's no matter what you do in yourself, there's nothing you can do to change that, you know? And we each have our own journey. So in the midst of my journey, and me believing the lies of the enemy, thinking, you know, I was like the outcast, the enemy, you know? Nobody understood me, knew me. The Lord had separated me from my mother's womb and didn't hand out the memo. Like at that time, it was not revealed. There was no revelation. And all of this had a divine purpose. It really did. And what the enemy meant for harm, God was using to position and to train. And, but in the time and space, it was war. And, you know, my name is Warrior Grace. That's what Father calls me. It's Kellyanne, which means Warrior Grace. And I was only called the Grace part, Anne, when I was in trouble. And so I actually despised my name, Kellyanne. It made me cringe to hear it, you know, because it was such a negative. And that's how the enemy operates. Like, what better way to steal the grace part than to make you believe the lie and not really understand what grace is, you know, to make it a negative thing for you. And to where it's almost like erasing it, you know? But God. And so, you know, years later, he would restore that and call me by my true name. And, as he came in grace in my darkest hour and delivered me and picked me up in the midst of my sin, like in the midst of everything, you know, put his arms around me when nobody else could, nobody else would, nobody else truly, you know, everything was like I was trying to take from them, they were trying to take from me because everybody was empty, you know, everybody was believing lies that the enemy had put, you know, and planted, and, anyway, but I was created with a really tender heart. Like, my heart, it wasn't always like that. At first, through everything, when the traumas came in, and all the rejection, that rejection spirit, orphan spirit, all of those things came in, I became really bitter. There was a lot of rage there. Probably in my young, at some point, if somebody, you know, if I was to accept a label or anything like that, which I know the truth of all these things now, but it would be probably sociopathic, narcissist, like all of those things, because that's what happens when the enemy gets a foothold in your life. That's who he is, you know, so you're going to bear the fruit of whatever you're connected to, kind of thing. And so I'm telling you, the Lord, when he redeems completely, and he gives you a heart transplant. And so now, he's given me his heart, and I feel deeply, not just for people, but for animals. It's hard. The Lord gives you a grace as you carry his heart, but there is weeping involved, a lot with it in this world, because there's so much suffering, even in his creation is suffering, A lot of people don't realize that animals have feelings. They have memories, they have feelings, they have families. And we're given a stewardship as children of God over this earth and all of its creatures. And things have just got to change in that. That's really heavy on my heart right now. I see a lot of that and a lot of ignorance of men. And of course, we can only give what we have. If we're in the deficit and we're under the fall, we just take and we drain, and we don't care about anything or anybody else. All we see is our need. All we see is our deficit. What about me? What about me? Poor pitiful, you have the whole victim and just like mentality, and you can do nothing else under that carnal. You can't. All evils, murders, debased things are there, perversions. It's all counterfeits and perversions, because you're believing lies and you're going around the mountain, around the mountain, around the mountain. Cycles on repeat, draining everything that you touch, like a parasite. That's really what the flesh in itself is a parasite apart from the Lord. Because lies were bought there, and you were sold from that place and into those lies, and the enemy just plunders, But he's defeated in Christ, and so when Jesus comes on the scene, all of those things change. It becomes like a renewal of the mind of the Spirit first, which then from glory to glory, as the Holy Spirit is now filling the vessel, enemies are cast out, and he begins to change even this mind, and he gives you a new heart, truly a heart transplant, and as he's doing all these things internally, it will eventually affect this external too, because his salvation is all encompassing. He makes all things beautiful in its time, and growing up, he had given me an outward beauty from what, I was told, and, stuff growing up, and that's what, for the longest time, when I was young, you go through all these awkward stages, and I was like the kid that was made fun of. You threw the what was that game that we played? The dodgeball because I didn't have any confidence in myself. So it's not like I really attempted to catch anything. I just wanted to disappear, because I was already felt invisible, felt unloved, unwanted, even from my began in my own house. I felt like an alien. And so when that happens and your spirit is broken, and you've got enemy lies, then of course it's going to affect every area of your life, and so I was like the one that just had my head in the book, just wanted to curl up inside of herself, didn't have any confidence to do anything, so I stayed to myself. I went through all the bullying and all the weird stuff, and until I hit puberty. And then everything started to shift out here. And so then it started again within my own family, to where my memory was like a grandmother that really didn't have much to do with me. Now, this is not my best friend. The grandmother that was my best friend, this is another, was just all of a sudden, I just remember her one day, she had not seen me in a long time, and then all the changes had taken place, and so then all of a sudden it was like, you are so gorgeous. And everybody, people that never even said 2 words to me before, that's where it was all about that. I'd be riding in the car with my mom, people honking out the window, and of course I had been anointed of the Lord at this time, and the anointing draws. I'm telling you all this for a reason, so bear with me. I'm going to show you how the enemy comes in. And so I'd already been broken. My spirit had been broken, and there had been this spirit of rejection that had come in. Okay. So I had received another name. Okay. And so now it's like the enemy wants to put you on the faulty foundation and really dig this in, like really ground you in this faulty place to establish more strongholds. So if it's dismantled on one end and not replaced in truth, but replaced with a lie, then of course you're going to have this stronghold and you're going to act out from this place. So not only was I rejected first, but now I'm accepted based solely out here on the temporal. So now I've already been sold by the lie. Now I'm going to continually be bought and under the same, okay? Under this, in this faulty place. And so then when you have this deficit and you want to feel loved, you want to feel like you belong, you know, you want to feel like you have a place, like you're getting the memo. You know what I mean? Every person does. We were made by love for love. And so when you want that so desperately and it's been, you don't feel that at all, you know, and now everything is based on the feels and it's all under a lie. Okay, and you know nothing about all of this stuff or the war that you're in or your true enemy or anything. And then you throw religion on top of it that, you know, you don't do this, this, and this, you're going to go to hell. I mean, come on, you can see there is a storm and it's about to get brutal, okay? And so the next lie presented under this faulty foundation is, this is the cure. Go find someone that's going to love you and get you and make your own family. Then you'll be loved. And so now you have something to use. Okay? So it's faulty. So guess what I'm going to attract? Only the same people under the same lies, under the same deficit, being sold for the same things. Okay? So we're both empty and we're both hungry and thirsty. And it's all based temporally, so it cannot last. Because the flesh is always hungry and thirsty. And eventually, out here's, you're not going to be fed by that anymore, because you're going to still have that same life insecurity, and you're going to need somebody else to validate it. You're going to need somebody else. When it gets ugly over here, and believe me, it will, because it can be nothing else, then you're going to need somebody else to come and say you're okay. Around the mountain, around the mountain, around the mountain. And that's what happened for years. Years. It's like taking an 11-day trip and taking 40 years, okay? And the thing about this is that what I didn't know is that this cycle had been on repeat. My mother had bought the same lie. She didn't ever feel accepted by her father. She felt rejected, all of these things, and felt unworthy. She didn't feel beautiful, like all of these things. She had gone through all these traumas, and so she was looking here, like to me, and to this family, to fill that void, and it could not be done. You know, she looked to making the picture perfect American dream cookie cutter, you know, life, that was going to fix all, and it cannot. So it's, you set yourself up for failure, and then you blame everybody else around you because you can't see truth. All you see is poor pitiful, I'm the victim, nobody ever gets me, nobody ever loves me. Hello, cycles on repeat. Okay, you look to the wrong things to fill the void, and then your seed is multiplied there, which is really dividing things. It's not a true multiplication. You're multiplying under division. So then you have mother against daughter. You have a mother competing against her daughter, and then seeing her as an enemy. And you can only imagine what that does within a daughter. I mean, nightmare. You hear me? Nightmare. Then you have a daughter running away, trying to find solace in the wrong places, trying to find peace. And so then she's plundered, but God. And so I went through years of promiscuity, which led to wrong marriages too, and a wonderful gift of grace in the midst of it, which is my daughter, and then a lot of abuse. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the grace of God. He's literally resurrected me. He's kept me. He's preserved me. Like, I actually have died, and he has brought me back at one point. And then other times, many times, I have looked death in the eye, called on him, and he came and rescued me. so yeah, he's brought me through a lot. Really, really dark places. In that place that you're sold and believe in lies, you settle for anything, and then you have other people believing the same lies that are angry and full of rage that it's gonna get taken out on you. And so you end up suffering. There's a lot of abuse and all of these things. But God, I'm going to tell you, in all of these places, in all of these things, He has used it for my good. It brought me to Him. It brought me because of the hands of grace, because of who He is. He used it to show me truth, to pioneer. He sent me as a pioneer ahead of my family to break these generational curses that He's already broken, but to walk this out and break them. And so it all had to play out to where it was like I was rejected out here in order to have that preparation, alone with Him. It was like the training in the fields. It was like Joseph in the prison, it was all of these times. And all of these things really was the positioning and the preparation, because there is no story unless there be a journey, and you're a victim until there's victory. And so anyway, He's really faithful and wonderful, and because of everything that I've walked through, even those things that are hard and the things that weren't His best for me, He made them. He made them beautiful. He took the ashes and made beauty. And He's given me His heart. Whereas there was once a heart of stone, and now it cries out for all creation, It's, until He comes on the scene, you can only be about yourself, and you're looking at beauty in all the faulty and just messed up places. But when He enters, and you receive His heart, and He removes all of that, like, poor pitiful, I'm a victim, and brings the victory, because He brought the victory. You have this epic story. You see the journey and the importance of every piece. And it's like, everything that the enemy set up to destroy me, the Lord used to actually position me so that generations could then receive His deliverance. So He gives you a legacy. And that's not just with me, that's with each of His vessels that He's called. So I did not plan any of this. Wow. So today, wherever you find yourself at in your story, in your journey, no matter how bad it looks, no matter how cold your heart may be, just know that He's got purpose in the pain, and He is faithful, and nothing is wasted with Jesus. And let me tell you, for those that contemplate suicide and all these things, let me tell you, there's so many nights I prayed for death. I cried out for God to take me. If this is all there is, let me go. It was one point in my life, it was after I had my daughter, and I was one of those pregnant women, that, because before I was like all into the healthy lifestyle. I met her dad in the gym, okay, just to tell you, okay, I was obsessed with, because remember, everything was built out here. It was all based out here. Now, I still like my fitness, but it's all on a healthy foundation now. But anyway, but back then it was not. Everything was based solely out here. And so I was one of those pregnant women that was working out through my whole pregnancy. I was going to the farmer's market and making up all the healthy stuff. I mean, everything was check, 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 And I was one of those that just, it looked like a basketball. Yeah, there was no weight anywhere else. I just carried right there, and I had all these plans, after I'm going to go right back. It's going to hop right back, And I barely, I gained the amount of weight that I was supposed to, and, everything went great. But then 12 hours into my labor, they said, guess what? You're too small. The baby's stuck and cannot go. And that was in the midst of almost losing me and her. And they put oxygen running me to C-section. Not planned. Okay. And so then have the emergency cesarean section. And so everything, okay, we're recovering. Everything seems smooth. The baby's out. I mean, I'm almost there. I'm like, oh, wow. It really kind of goes away real fast, I'm swollen and everything. But I'm saying, you already feel like lighter. And you're like, okay, as soon as I can get up, we're going. We're going to get back to this. But I'm enjoying my baby and all this stuff. And then I get home, I start doing my normal, I'm having to, I start my breastfeeding and everything, and then it's like, the pressure and the pain does not go away like it's supposed to. And in fact, it gets worse. And I was having all these crazy symptoms, ended up going back to the doctor, where I'm laying there, and he's supposed to check me. Well, not only does he check me, but then he touches the thing like he's going to take the stitches out, and my whole thing rips open because I have a staph infection. And there's this rivers. I'm going to spare you the details on this. Okay. This is really going somewhere. Okay. So then I have to have a gauze stuff to my intestines for a month. And so yeah, that wasn't cute. Which affected my breastfeeding because I have to take certain medications and all this stuff. So that killed that dream. She got the colostrum, but I couldn't do anything like I planned. So this one, I said, then we get past this, okay? And I'm able to start back, and it's doing the things that I would normally do. Even, eating the normal things that I'd normally eat. And weight starts going off, and I see a shift. But then all of a sudden, it starts coming on. I'm like, what is happening? And then hormonally, all this crazy stuff. I start just having these panic attacks, and I didn't know what a panic attack was. I thought I was dying. I thought I was having a heart attack. All these things started happening with my health. And then during this time, her dad was, just calling me crazy or nuts because I'd go to the doctor and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. I mean, they did all the tests and stuff, couldn't find nothing wrong with me. Doctor after doctor after doctor. I mean, this was bad. I was out, with just spur of the moment, you be living life, and all of a sudden, you're dying. Pains, not breathing, turning, pale as a ghost, gonna fall, all these things. And then packing on weight, and, how? I'm doing everything. You're what is happening? But then they couldn't find nothing wrong health-wise. Run all the blood, the EKGs, everything. Couldn't find it. I went 5 years. 5 years undiagnosed. By the time that it was diagnosed, everything was so low that, I mean, even the doctor was in shock. What? And it was this woman doctor that the Lord finally led me to. That 5 means grace, by the way. But during this 5 years, I even at one point made a video for my daughter because I believed I wasn't gonna make it. That would include things for each birthday. And then, of course, the guy that I was married to at the time was calling me crazy. I'd have to drive myself to the emergency room in the middle of the night because he just thought I was, you're just nuts. Something's wrong with you. They can't find anything wrong with you. This is just mental. It's in your head. It was brutal. And I thought I was dying. And so I'm trying to get there and not pass out. I mean, it was a rough time. There was a lot robbed from me during this time. But I love being a mom, and I put my, oh, by the way, I gained 100 pounds, 100 pounds, not 20, not 50, but 100 pounds, and had no idea why. So, and I was severely depressed, all of these things failing me in this time. So you're talking about, it was bad. Finally, they, give me this diagnosis of PCOS and insulin resistance. And then the Lord leads me to this company that's an herbal company that specializes in reversing this, and then tells me this is what you have to do. you know. And so that's what I did. I didn't, because I'm not about pharmaceuticals and man-made stuff. The same thing with the panic attacks. There's got to be another way. So I did everything naturally. Begin to take this stuff and to continue my workout, but to eat differently for this. Like that. Like that. It was like a switch. And everything started to raise back. I lost 100 pounds and have kept it off all these years, by the way. But that was the roughest part of my life. But let me tell you what happened during that time. It was like there has to be a stripping before there can be a reestablishment. And because everything, the way the enemy set it up, had been established on the faulty, all of these things was the stripping of the faulty and the beginning of the reestablishing of the true that would only come forth years later. So that's why everything happened the way it did. And it gave me a different heart. It gave me a heart for people, to see these bodies in truth, to see value in truth. Like all of these things that will look so terrible and like death. He chose death to bring life. And so it's all in all these dead places and all these hard things and all of these strippings that true establishment can come. So no matter where you are right now, no matter how bad it looks, and the more you hear death calling your name, let that be the testimony to say, if the devil's trying to take you out, you're on the verge of something. God's birthing something in. So don't give in to it. Don't you quit. You get up. You get up. And you stand, not by might or power, but by the Spirit of the living God. Let this testimony, let this non-planned share of all over the place, but yet ordered of God, be that thing for you today to give you hope, to know that there is a future, that there is nothing that He cannot use. I mean, He's brought me through the most crazy, traumatic, all the things where the enemy's tried to destroy me. Okay? And if He can do it for me, He can do it for you. So, no matter how ugly it looks now, just know beauty is on the other side. There is life after the death. So, just press into the pressure and keep going, baby, because it's going to be beautiful on the other side. You're loved.